What's going on? I don't understand.
Just take it easy. We need to wait here until your parents arrive.
What if I told you that a single wrongful arrest didn't just ruin a teenager's life, it exposed a police officer's darkest secret? On a cold autumn evening in 2011, Officer Daniel Rourke responded to a break-in at a local pharmacy in Brookshore, Illinois. The suspect fled on foot. A witness claimed he saw a young male wearing a hoodie. Minutes later, Rourke tackled 17-year-old Marcus Hale, a quiet kid with no record, walking home from a study group. Marcus begged, "You've got the wrong person." Rourke ignored him. But something strange happened. While searching Marcus's backpack, Rourke found nothing. No stolen meds, no tools, not even a pocket knife. Still, he arrested him. Neighbors watching the scene whispered the same thing. Rourke looked nervous, like he wasn't arresting Marcus, he was covering something up. None of them knew it yet, but Marcus's arrest would unravel a secret Rourke had been hiding for years. Officer Daniel Rourke was known as the clean cop. Perfect attendance, commendations on his wall, zero complaints. But people who worked with him said something else. He never let anyone ride with him. He insisted on patrolling alone, and he always seemed to arrive at crime scenes suspiciously fast. When Rourke brought Marcus to the station, Sergeant Doyle raised an eyebrow. Marcus didn't fit the witness description. His clothes were clean, and he looked terrified, not guilty. Still, Rourke insisted. He pushed paperwork aggressively, trying to move the case forward before anyone questioned details. But one thing bothered Doyle. Rourke's uniform was dusty, as if he had been inside the pharmacy himself. Doyle quietly photographed the dust on Rourke's sleeves before anyone else noticed. That photo would become the first piece of evidence that something was very, very wrong with Officer Rourke. Marcus Hale had never even been inside a police station. Now he sat in an interrogation room under bright lights, hands shaking, voice cracking. "I didn't do anything," he repeated. "I was walking home. Check my phone. I was texting my tutor." Rourke didn't care. He slammed a folder onto the table and leaned forward. "You ran from the scene. Witness saw you." Marcus whispered, "I didn't run. You almost hit me with your car." Detective Sanders, watching through the glass, frowned. Rourke wasn't letting Marcus explain. He wasn't asking real questions. He was steering the conversation, forcing guilt. It didn't feel like an interrogation. It felt like a performance. When Sanders pulled Rourke aside afterward, Rourke snapped, "Don't question my arrest." That was the moment Sanders realized something chilling. Rourke wasn't afraid Marcus was guilty. He was afraid Marcus might be innocent. Detective Sanders requested the pharmacy's security footage. Rourke tried to stop him. "We don't need it," he argued. "Case is simple." That statement alone was suspicious. When the footage finally loaded, everyone stared in silence. The suspect was wearing a hoodie, yes, but he was clearly shorter than Marcus, stockier, and moving confidently, like he knew the layout. But the most shocking detail? The suspect had a distinct limp. Marcus didn't limp. Rourke did, from an injury he'd claimed happened during a foot chase 2 years earlier. Sanders replayed the footage twice before looking across the room at Rourke. Rourke's jaw tightened. He stepped back and instinctively touched his injured knee, as if trying to hide it. Suddenly, the entire department realized The break-in suspect didn't match Marcus, but he matched someone they knew extremely well. The pharmacy doorframe had one clean fingerprint. Just one. The techs nearly dismissed it, until they ran it. It matched Officer Daniel Rourke. Not similar, not partial, a full match. When Sergeant Doyle confronted him, Rourke froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough to give himself away. He claimed, "I was there earlier in the day, doing a routine check." But the pharmacy manager disagreed. "No officer has been inside for weeks." Meanwhile, Marcus sat in a holding cell for a crime that was falling apart by the hour. Sanders walked past Marcus's cell and said quietly, "You're getting out. This isn't on you." But for Rourke, things were only beginning to unravel. The fingerprint wasn't the only trace he left behind. Someone finally remembered a detail from 2 years earlier. A detail about another break-in that had never been solved. Detective Sanders couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen Rourke's behavior before, so he went digging. 2 years earlier, Brookshore had a string of pharmacy break-ins. Each time, the suspect avoided cameras, took only high-value medications, and left almost no trace. The cases were never solved. But Sanders found something strange. Officer Rourke responded to every one of those calls within minutes, even though he was supposed to be patrolling the opposite side of town. And then there was the injury paperwork from the night Rourke claimed he hurt his knee. He said he slipped on ice during a chase, but the report lacked witness signatures and the timestamp didn't match his shift log. Sanders whispered to himself. He wasn't chasing a suspect. He was the suspect. Meanwhile, Marcus's lawyer demanded all footage, all paperwork, and all body cam logs related to Rourke. But when they checked the system, Rourke's body cam had been malfunctioning during every theft he responded to. Officer Rourke almost never took a partner. But once, just once, he did. Officer Levi Grant, now retired, agreed to meet Detective Sanders quietly at a diner outside town. Grant stirred his coffee nervously and said, "Rourke wasn't normal. He always arrived too fast. He always knew where to look. And he always told me to stay in the car." Sanders leaned in. "What did you see?" Grant swallowed hard. "One night, I followed him. He didn't know. He wasn't responding to calls. He was scouting pharmacies, measuring cameras, checking windows." Sanders froze. Grant continued, "I reported it to Internal Affairs. They said there wasn't enough evidence." He looked down. "I should have pushed harder." Now Sanders had confirmation. Rourke had been planning break-ins for years. And the wrongful arrest of Marcus wasn't a mistake. It was a cover-up gone wrong. As evidence piled up against Rourke, Marcus Hale was officially released. But the moment he walked out of the station, he wasn't safe. Rourke watched from his patrol car across the street, hands gripping the steering wheel. His perfect career was collapsing because of a teenager who had nothing to do with the pharmacy case. Marcus's mother hugged him tightly, but he whispered, "That officer, he's still watching me." She turned, and Rourke sped off before she could see his face clearly. Later that night, Marcus saw a car slowly pass his house. The same headlights, the same shape. He backed away from the window. Meanwhile, Detective Sanders gathered enough evidence to request a formal investigation. But there was a problem. Rourke heard about the internal inquiry before Sanders even filed it. And when Sanders went to look for Rourke the next morning, Rourke was gone. Rourke's apartment was eerily clean. Too clean. Drawers empty, shelves dusted, clothes gone. But the trash hadn't been taken out. Inside, Sanders found something chilling. Wrappers from the same medication stolen from pharmacies 2 years earlier. He bagged them as evidence. But the real discovery came from a hidden compartment under the floorboard. Inside the small box, maps of every pharmacy in a 60-mile radius, camera layouts, notes written in Rourke's handwriting, and a list titled, "Never Make the Same Mistake Twice." Underneath the title were notes about disguises, footprint patterns, and the most disturbing line of all. If caught, redirect blame to local youth. Sanders dropped the paper, frozen. This wasn't corruption. This was strategy. And Marcus had been the first teenager Rourke tried to pin a crime on. In the same floorboard compartment, Sanders found a second note. Longer, handwritten, angry. It wasn't a confession, but it was close. Rourke wrote about feeling underpaid, unappreciated, and smarter than every criminal in Brookshore. He claimed the town owed him, and that he deserved compensation for keeping the street safe. But the chilling part came near the end. "I only steal what the addicts would ruin themselves with. I take it cleanly, efficiently. No one gets hurt unless they get in my way." Sanders exhaled sharply. The wrongful arrest wasn't an accident. It was Rourke's pattern. Frame someone, erase suspicion, steal again. And now Rourke had vanished, with the skills of a criminal and the training of a cop. It was time to bring in federal support. Federal agents joined the search. Roadblocks, alerts, postings across 3 states. But Rourke wasn't easy to track. He knew every tactic. Sanders requested access to Rourke's old patrol patterns. He noticed something odd. Rourke frequently stopped at abandoned buildings, old warehouses, and rural storage units. One particular location kept appearing, an abandoned mill 30 miles from town. Agents raided it at dawn. Inside, they found sleeping bags, non-perishable food, a burner phone, and photos of pharmacies taken from a distance. He had been planning more break-ins, dozens more. But Rourke himself wasn't there. Instead, taped to a metal beam, they found a handwritten note. "You want me? Stop chasing your shadows." Sanders realized something terrifying. Rourke wasn't running. He was hunting the investigators. While investigators scrambled, Marcus Hale tried to return to normal. But he couldn't shake the feeling that Rourke wasn't done with him. He was right. One night Marcus saw the same dark car parked 2 houses down. No lights, Engine off. Silhouette inside. He called Sanders immediately. Sanders alerted local patrols, but by the time they arrived, the car was gone. Marcus wasn't safe anymore. Sanders had him moved to a protected location, but as they drove Marcus out of town, Sanders caught sight of something in his rearview mirror. A dark sedan, following from several car lengths back. Sanders told Marcus, "Don't look behind you." Marcus whispered, "It's him, isn't it?" Sanders didn't answer, because he already knew Rourke wasn't hiding. He was watching.
Sanders and the federal team formed a plan. Use the safe house as bait. Rourke was predictable. He would follow Marcus. What they didn't expect was that Rourke had a plan of his own. When agents entered the safe house to secure it, they found a message spray-painted on the wall. "Your timing is too slow." Rourke had already been inside, hours earlier. He left no fingerprints, no footprints, nothing. Except a small map taped to the refrigerator. It showed the Brookshore Police Department, with a red circle around the evidence room. Sanders realized Rourke wasn't running from his crimes, he was trying to destroy all evidence of them. Sanders shouted to agents, "He's going after the evidence. He's cleaning house." Units rushed back toward the station. But Rourke was faster. By the time Sanders and the agents reached the police station, the back door was hanging open. Inside, the evidence room was a disaster. Boxes overturned, files missing, medication cases emptied. But one drawer mattered most, the drawer containing Rourke's old theft evidence. It was open, empty. Rourke had taken every piece of incriminating material about himself, everything Sanders spent weeks collecting. Except one thing. The floorboard box from Rourke's apartment. Sanders had taken it earlier for federal processing. Rourke didn't know that. And that box, containing maps, plans, and handwritten notes, was enough to convict him. But Rourke wasn't finished. He left one final message, written in permanent marker on an overturned file cabinet. "If you want the truth, come find me." Federal agents finally tracked Rourke to an abandoned hunting cabin near the state line. Sanders approached the door slowly, weapon drawn, heart pounding. Inside, Rourke sat calmly at a table, like he had been expecting them. But something was off. Rourke wasn't armed. He wasn't running. He wasn't panicking. He simply said, "I know you think you caught me, but you never understood the whole story." Sanders replied, "We have everything we need." Rourke smiled, a tired, almost relieved smile. He placed his hands on the table and whispered, "Good. I'm done running." He surrendered quietly. No fight, no resistance. Because the truth was simple. Rourke had realized he couldn't outrun both the law and the guilt that had been eating him for years. Marcus Hale was cleared, the case was closed, and Rourke's long-hidden crimes finally came to light. But one question haunted Sanders forever. If Rourke hadn't arrested the wrong teenager that night, would anyone have ever uncovered the truth? If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's start the conversations that matter, the ones that lead to real change. And if you'd like more stories that challenge us, inspire us, and remind us of what we're capable of when we stand for what's right, subscribe to the channel Your support helps bring more stories like this to light.